Starting at the Etihad Stadium, it is Manchester City versus Aston Villa. And this one is part of that Champions League race for top 5, because 5th place does get Champions League in this Premier League season. And these two teams are both running in to get a Champions League spot. And I really do not want to talk about Newcastle United and Aston Villa at the moment. Absolute shambles by Newcastle, but Aston Villa shock me massively, constantly winning. But if you think about it, Manchester City, well, they are starting to get a bit of form. But still, even without Erling Haaland, Rodri and the other people from Man City, they've still got a strong side. And with home advantage, I can't see Man City losing it. In terms of overall, Man City are still not a bad side. They are really good, and it's going to be an incredibly close game. I genuinely cannot split the sides. I actually originally had this 2-1 to Man City, but I'm just thinking to myself, I underestimated Aston Villa in the last game. Completely underestimated them. So I can't underestimate them again, but I really cannot go for Aston Villa to win, because I feel like Man City, they're starting to turn into a decent Man City. Maybe not the best Man City, but they're starting to get results over the line. So I'm going to go and start off with a good old Desmond Tutu between Man City and Aston Villa. The Champions League race is on. Now over to the Emirates Stadium, it's the Gunners versus Crystal Palace. And obviously Crystal Palace is playing Aston Villa in the FA Cup semi-final. And they're probably going to be wanting to rest up for that game. And considering Crystal Palace has been battered by Newcastle, and I guess you could say against Man City, they are missing Richards in the defence. So in my opinion, I feel like Arsenal are definitely the favourites coming into this. There's something about Crystal Palace. I have praised Crystal Palace throughout the entire season, but in recent time, it's been a bit meh. You know what I mean? So I feel like Arsenal are going to be able to get this done. But Crystal Palace still has a much better defence than Ipswich Town. Trust me, 4 goals is not going past Crystal Palace again. And Arsenal are only going to be winning this by 1 goal. 1-0 to Arsenal. I'm going to say Bukayo Saka is going to get the lovely goal. Just going to quickly stop you there. It will be much appreciated if you can click this little like button, as it will help me out to make these videos better. As you can see, my new setup is currently in testing mode and is nowhere near done. So like the video and my videos will improve. Over to Stamford Bridge, it's Chelsea versus Everton. Now Chelsea must be really pleased with themselves. They just got a 2-1 win against Fulham, and now they're facing Everton, which lost 2-0 against Man City. But despite Everton actually losing to Man City, I still feel like they probably will have a very good chance of not losing against Chelsea. Number 1, Chelsea in recent time look weaker than Man City. And number 2, ever since Tawaski actually came off the pitch for Everton, everything went to shambles. So maybe keep Tawaski on for the full 90 minutes and Everton might be fine. But Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson hasn't scored for such a long time. And just in general, they're not up to their main scratchness. The likes of Tariq George had to come on and actually score for them. Also a great volley by Pedro Neto as well. And overall, I'm just thinking, when are they going to get back on form? And personally, because of the lack of goals from the likes of your main striker Nicholas Jackson and Cole Palmer, I feel like this is going to be low scoring, especially with Everton's defence being really good. So it's going to be a low scoring game, but at Stamford Bridge, with Chelsea winning against Fulham, proving that they can beat a very good Fulham side, will be able to get a win in this game. I'm thinking 1-0 to Chelsea. I backed them up in the last game saying that they would win against Fulham, so I'm going to back them up again. 1-0 to Chelsea. They're still a good side, but they're not going to score many, as their main star talents are not at the best level at the moment. Over to the Molineux Stadium, Wolverhampton Wanderers versus a championship side for next season. Leicester are relegated. I mean, at one point it looked like they went 1-0 up, but it was disallowed. And overall, they are a championship side next season. And Wolves, well, they are constantly climbing the table, and they are winning. And to be honest, I think they're going to win again. I'm going to go for a close scoreline though, considering Leicester had a close scoreline against Liverpool. They only got a 2-2 draw against Brighton, so that's quite close. So I'm only going to go close, but Wolves are just cooking in every way possible. Vitor Pereira hasn't just relied on Matheus Cunha. He's gotten the entire team absolutely cooking. 2-1 to Wolverhampton Wanderers as they faced the relegated Leicester City. Over to St James's Park, it's Newcastle United versus Ipswich Town. Okay, Newcastle lost to Aston Villa, but let's look on the positives. Fabian Schär is like Newcastle's highest goal-scoring defender ever. 17 Premier League goals now. That's a positive. We don't have to talk about that Aston Villa defeat, but what we can talk about is the 5-0 win against Crystal Palace. I mean, that doesn't make sense. How can Newcastle beat Crystal Palace 5-0 and Crystal Palace beat Aston Villa 4-1, but Newcastle lose to Aston Villa? Those three results are incompatible and don't make any sense. Absolute shambles by Newcastle. Completely shocks me how Aston Villa responded. But Newcastle are playing Ipswich. Ipswich, I mean, they're practically down. They lost 4-0 against Arsenal. They're too open at the back. And they're missing Leif Davis. So I'm going 3-0 to Newcastle United. I'm quite confident, especially at St James's Park. And even though Newcastle lost to Aston Villa 4-1, it's still going to be an incredibly easier game facing Ipswich. Sorry Ipswich, but come on the tune. Over to the Amex Stadium, it's Brighton and Hove Albion versus West Ham United. And these two sides aren't on the best of form. You'd have thought West Ham would be able to get a win against last place. Somehow no. How did they not win against last place? Graham Potter improved West Ham's defence, but, well, that's about it. Didn't improve the results, hasn't improved the attack, in fact the attack's gotten worse, and overall, West Ham are in a worse position in the table. I cannot see West Ham winning, and Brighton, they conceded 4 goals against Brentford, and overall, the results haven't been going their way. Both teams, results aren't going either way. Graham Potter derby, you could call this, because he managed Brighton, and he did such a good job with Brighton. And with West Ham, it's taking time, but it's not clicking right now with Graham Potter and West Ham. And Brighton aren't on the best of form either. So I'm going down the middle for a 1-1 draw between Brighton and West Ham. I'm going a bit low scoring as West Ham's defence has improved with Graham Potter as manager, but the results aren't. Over to the St Mary's, it is Southampton versus the Cottagers, and I'm going 2-0 to the Cottagers. Southampton though, they are not going to beat the record for the worst tally points in the Premier League, because they're now equalled with Derby County. They're going against the Cottagers after the Cottagers have lost the last 2 games in the Premier League. They've got no chance. They're going to be fired up and they're going to be cooking with gas. 2-0 to the better side. But can Southampton do better than that Derby County year? That's the main question. Over to the Vitality Stadium, it is AFC Bournemouth versus Manchester United. And Manchester United, lacklustre in goals, couldn't score against Wolves. And last video, I was this close of going for a Wolves win, but I couldn't. But to be honest, Bournemouth, in terms of results, haven't exactly been blowing my mind in recent time. They did get a 0-0 draw with Crystal Palace, but if you think about it, at the 46th minute, Crystal Palace did go down to 10 men, and Bournemouth still couldn't score. I feel like Bournemouth are an incredibly good side, but I feel like it's gonna be a draw. You know, sometimes you have that feeling with a game and it's gonna be that result. And this is what it feels like. It feels like this is a draw. I mean, Man United aren't gonna win this because we've seen how meh they are in the attack. So they're not gonna score any more than a goal. Bournemouth, they look good. They definitely look better than Man United, but they still don't look really, really good in recent time. And it's very hard to split these sides because Man United still create a decent amount of chances. So I'm going to go 1-1 between Bournemouth and Man United. But if Bournemouth win this, I will definitely be going for Man United to lose more games more often if Bournemouth win this. But I'm backing you up, possibly for the last time, Man United. 1-1 over to Anfield, Liverpool versus Tottenham, and Tottenham are currently losing 2-0 to Nottingham Forest. I would watch this game, but I have to record because games literally start tomorrow. But at the moment they are losing 2-0 to Nottingham Forest 27 minutes through the game. I cannot believe I actually predicted a draw for that game in my previous week prediction. Anyway, they did get through to the next round of the Europa League. Same with Man United, but to be honest, they're facing Liverpool and yeah, they've got no chance. Liverpool, they're wrapping this up. 3-1 to Liverpool. They've won the title. They're there. Especially that they're currently losing 2-0 to Forest. But now we move over to the City Ground. It's Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. This is going to be a really close encounter as Yohan Wissa and Bryan Mbeumo continue to perform brilliantly. Absolutely brilliantly. The combination of Yohan Wissa and Bryan Mbeumo is threatening. I know there was a few deflected goals in that Brighton game when they won at 4-2, but it's not just them, it's a team's performance, and the reason why is able to actually finish in mid-table is probably because of Thomas Frank. Again, I said he's a lovely gentleman, and he is, and he's a good manager. And in this game, he's going to be able to scrape a point against Nottingham Forest. I'm going 1-1. I know Nottingham Forest are currently winning against Tottenham, but Brentford is a different kettle of fish to Tottenham. Bryan Mbeumo and Yohan Wissa and Thomas Frank's tactics to make the entire team look good, yeah, it's going to be tough. But I do have to admit, Nottingham Forest still look pretty decent, so I don't see Brentford winning it, but I also don't see Nottingham Forest winning it, with everything I've said about Brentford. So 1-1 seems like a fair prediction. But my goal of the week is going to be Sarabia's free kick. I mean, this is a brilliant training ground free kick goal. But how did I do in the previous week? Well, I got 5 points out of 20 points, which again is meh. It's not the best. But you never know, I might be able to get an extra point or two if Tottenham go and score 2 goals against Nottingham Forest. But they are currently 2-0 down, so that's probably not going to happen. But one thing that might happen is you having a lovely day. And you'll have an even lovelier day if you check out this next video that I'm about to punch you to. Toodle pip!